Welcome to Cosmic Whispers, where cosmic mysteries come alive. Your journey beyond the stars begins now. In the vast whiteness of Antarctica, beneath nearly half a mile of solid ice, lies a world that shouldn't exist. Lake Vostok remained sealed off from our planet's atmosphere for at least 400,000 years, a pristine time capsule hidden beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. Scientists had long suspected water might exist beneath the continent's frozen exterior, but what they found defied all expectations. The first hints came in the 1970s, when Soviet scientists at Vostok Station detected anomalies in radar soundings. These peculiar readings suggested something extraordinary: liquid water, somehow persisting in one of Earth's coldest environments. But it wasn't until 2012 that Russian researchers finally penetrated the ice sheet after decades of careful drilling, reaching a subglacial realm untouched by humans since before our species evolved. What makes this environment so extraordinary isn't just its isolation. Lake Vostok exists under conditions that challenge our understanding of life's boundaries. The water temperature hovers just above freezing, -3 degrees Celsius, kept liquid only by the immense pressure from the ice above and geothermal heat from below. Oxygen levels are 50 times higher than in ordinary freshwater lakes, creating hyperoxic conditions that would be toxic to most familiar organisms. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Right now, Cosmic Whispers is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you enjoy unraveling the mysteries of the universe, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us grow this community together. The initial announcement of life in Lake Vostok met with skepticism. Critics suggested contamination from drilling fluids or from the ice sheet itself had tainted samples. Science demands extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims, and researchers needed to be certain they hadn't simply introduced modern microbes into this ancient environment. The breakthrough came with meticulous contamination controls and advanced genomic analysis techniques. DNA sequencing revealed something astonishing: thousands of distinct bacterial species, many completely new to science. Most remarkably, these weren't just dormant cells surviving in suspended animation. This was an active, functioning ecosystem, operating in total darkness, extreme pressure and isolation for hundreds of thousands of years. What emerged was nothing short of revolutionary: an ecosystem based not on photosynthesis, impossible without sunlight, but on chemosynthesis. Life here derives energy from chemical reactions, involving minerals in the lake's sediments and bedrock. Microbes metabolize compounds containing iron, sulfur, and nitrogen through processes completely independent of the sun-powered food webs that dominate Earth's surface. The creatures of Lake Vostok evolved in a trajectory parallel to yet separate from all other life on our planet. They represent what scientists call a natural experiment, evolution playing out in isolation under extreme conditions found nowhere else on Earth. Some researchers even suggest they might serve as analogues for potential life on ice-covered moons in our solar system, particularly Jupiter's Europa or Saturn's Enceladus. Beyond scientific significance, the discovery forces us to reconsider life's resilience. In conditions that should prohibit biological processes, complex ecosystems have not merely survived but thrived. The boundary between habitable and uninhabitable blurs, suggesting life might persist in environments we'd previously deemed impossible. As one researcher noted, wherever we find liquid water on Earth, we find life, even in places we never thought to look. 4 kilometers beneath Antarctica's surface, Lake Vostok's ecosystem challenges everything we thought we knew about life's requirements. Unlike virtually every ecosystem on Earth's surface, which ultimately depends on photosynthesis and the sun's energy, Vostok's microbial communities have evolved in perpetual darkness for millions of years. This sunless world operates on fundamentally different principles, offering scientists a unique window into alternative evolutionary pathways. The absence of sunlight means no photosynthetic organisms can survive here. There are no plants, no algae, nothing that could harness solar energy. Instead, the ecosystem's primary producers are chemolithoautotrophs, microorganisms that derive energy not from light, but from inorganic chemical compounds. These remarkable bacteria, oxidize minerals like iron and sulfur released from bedrock beneath the lake, using the energy from these reactions to fix carbon dioxide into organic molecules. What makes this process even more extraordinary is that the carbon dioxide itself comes primarily from geochemical sources rather than the atmosphere. Gases dissolved in the water, including carbon dioxide, methane, and hydrogen, likely originate from the underlying bedrock or from hydrothermal vents that may exist at the lake bottom. These vents, if present, would release mineral-rich water heated by Earth's internal processes, creating chemical gradients that microbes can exploit. The food web that develops from this foundation is extraordinarily streamlined compared to surface ecosystems. With primary production extremely limited by available energy sources, biodiversity remains relatively low. Yet within these constraints, life has diversified remarkably. Scientists have identified several distinct ecological niches, each occupied by microbes with specialized metabolisms tailored to specific chemical environments within the lake. Among the most fascinating organisms discovered are extremophiles with novel adaptations to Vostok's unique conditions. Some produce antifreeze proteins that prevent ice crystal formation in their cells. Others have evolved mechanisms to deal with the lake's hyperoxic environment, oxygen levels that would generate deadly free radicals in most organisms. Some bacteria possess unusually robust DNA repair mechanisms, possibly an adaptation to geothermal radiation from minerals in the lake sediment. Perhaps most intriguing are the heterotrophs, organisms that consume organic compounds produced by other microbes. These secondary consumers complete miniature nutrient cycles, breaking down dead cells and recycling their components with remarkable efficiency. In this closed system, nothing goes to waste. Evolutionary pressure has selected for organisms that can extract energy from even the most recalcitrant organic matter. The lake isn't uniform. It contains distinct zones with different chemical properties. Near the ice-water interface, conditions differ significantly from the lake bottom. Microbes have specialized to particular depths, creating a vertical distribution of species. Some evidence suggests seasonal variations may exist, despite the ice cover, as slight temperature differences cause water circulation patterns that redistribute nutrients throughout the lake. What's perhaps most remarkable about Lake Vostok's ecosystem is its stability. While surface ecosystems constantly respond to changing conditions, seasons, weather, climate shifts, Vostok remains virtually unchanged. The consistent environment has allowed for evolutionary fine-tuning over immense timescales. The microbes here aren't adapted to handle fluctuations. Instead, they've optimized their metabolism for the precise, unwavering conditions of their isolated home. This stability raises fascinating questions about evolutionary speed and diversity. Without environmental pressures driving adaptation, has evolution here proceeded more slowly than in variable environments? Or has the extreme nature of the conditions themselves driven rapid specialization? As researchers continue analyzing genomic data from Vostok's microbes, answers to these fundamental questions about evolution's mechanisms may emerge from the darkness. The microorganisms thriving beneath Antarctica's ice represent some of Earth's most remarkable extremophiles, organisms that not only tolerate but require conditions that would kill most life forms. These extraordinary survivors demonstrate biological innovation pushed to theoretical limits, with adaptations so specialized they seem almost alien. Psychrophiles, cold-loving microbes, dominate Lake Vostok's ecosystem, but these aren't ordinary cold-adapted bacteria. They operate at the absolute thermodynamic minimum for biological processes. At temperatures hovering just above -3 degrees Celsius, chemical reactions normally slow to a crawl. To compensate, Vostok's psychrophiles produce enzymes with unique structural modifications that maintain flexibility even near freezing. Their cell membranes contain higher proportions of unsaturated fatty acids, preventing rigidity that would otherwise halt cellular function. Perhaps most impressive are the barophiles, pressure-loving organisms adapted to Vostok's crushing depths. The overlying 4 kilometers of ice exerts pressure exceeding 350 atmospheres, Under such conditions, protein structures typically compress and denature, yet Vostok's microbes have evolved pressure-resistant cellular machinery. Their proteins contain unusual amino acid sequences that maintain functionality despite enormous mechanical stress. Some species actually require this pressure to survive. When cultured in laboratories at normal atmospheric pressure, their metabolic processes destabilize. The lake's hyperoxic environment presents another extreme challenge. With oxygen concentrations 50 times higher than typical fresh water, conditions should be toxic to most organisms. Oxygen readily forms reactive species that damage DNA, proteins, and cell membranes. Vostok's bacteria have developed extraordinary antioxidant systems, specialized enzymes like superoxide dismutase and catalase that neutralize oxygen radicals with remarkable efficiency. Some species encapsulate themselves in protective biofilms that create microenvironments with regulated oxygen levels. Genomic analysis reveals another surprising adaptation. Many Vostok microbes possess unusually large genomes containing multiple, redundant systems. This genetic redundancy provides backup mechanisms for critical cellular functions, allowing survival even if primary systems fail under extreme conditions. It's an evolutionary insurance policy that comes at the cost of metabolic efficiency. These organisms must maintain extra genetic material despite severe energy limitations. What's particularly fascinating about these adaptations is their convergent, yet distinct evolution compared to extremophiles found elsewhere. Deep-sea hydrothermal vent communities face similar pressures, but much higher temperatures. When researchers compare genomes between these environments, they find different genetic solutions to similar physical challenges, a stunning example of how evolution can repeatedly solve the same problems through different pathways. The survival strategies employed in Lake Vostok extend beyond individual adaptations to community-level cooperation. Evidence suggests extensive horizontal gene transfer, the direct exchange of genetic material between different species. This microbial skill sharing accelerates adaptation in an environment where reproduction occurs slowly due to limited energy. Genetic innovations spread rapidly through the community rather than remaining isolated in individual lineages. Perhaps most remarkably, these organisms display metabolic versatility despite their extreme specialization. Many can switch between different energy pathways depending on available resources, activating alternative metabolic circuits when preferred substrates become scarce. This flexibility is crucial in an ecosystem where energy sources are limited and unpredictable. Scientists studying these adaptations face enormous challenges. Many Vostok organisms remain unculturable in laboratory settings. They simply won't grow outside their extreme native conditions. Researchers must rely on metagenomic techniques, sequencing DNA directly from environmental samples rather than from cultured organisms. This approach has revealed countless genes with unknown functions, suggesting biological mechanisms we've never before encountered. The extremophiles of Lake Vostok haven't merely adapted to survive in harsh conditions, they've optimized to thrive. These aren't stressed organisms barely clinging to existence. They're highly specialized life forms perfectly matched to their environment, demonstrating life's remarkable capacity to colonize even the most challenging niches on our planet. Lake Vostok represents one of Earth's most remarkable natural time capsules, a biological repository sealed from the outside world for at least 400,000 years and possibly much longer. This extraordinary isolation has created evolutionary conditions without parallel anywhere else on our planet, transforming the lake into a living laboratory for studying divergent evolution. The timeline of Vostok's isolation corresponds with multiple ice ages and interglacial periods. During this span, our own species evolved from ancestral hominids, spread across the planet, developed agriculture, built civilizations, and entered the modern era. Throughout these transformative epochs for surface life, Vostok's ecosystem remained untouched, following its own evolutionary trajectory in splendid isolation. This separation created what biologists call an evolutionary experiment, a natural test case for how life develops when completely cut off from the broader biosphere. While surface ecosystems exchange genes, species, and evolutionary innovations across continents, Vostok's microbes evolved in isolation, facing selective pressures unique to their sealed environment. Evidence for this isolation appears in genomic analysis. When researchers sequence DNA from Vostok microbes, they find distinctive genetic signatures unlike anything in global microbial databases. Certain genes show mutation patterns, suggesting divergence from common ancestors millions of years ago, with subsequent independent evolution. These molecular clock analyses provide compelling evidence that Vostok's inhabitants haven't exchanged genetic material with the outside world for immense periods. Perhaps most fascinating is what scientists call genomic streamlining, the process by which organisms in resource-limited environments shed unnecessary genetic material. Many Vostok bacteria have remarkably compact genomes, having eliminated genes for traits unnecessary in their stable environment. Functions related to variable temperature response, resistance to ultraviolet radiation, and certain stress responses have disappeared entirely from some lineages. Genetic capabilities essential in surface environments, but wasteful in Vostok's unchanging darkness. Conversely, these organisms have expanded genetic toolkits related to their specific challenges. Genes controlling pressure tolerance, cold adaptation, and specialized metabolism appear in multiple copies, often with subtle variations. This genetic redundancy provides backup systems for critical functions, an evolutionary insurance policy, in an environment where failure means extinction. The time capsule effect extends beyond genetics to community structure. The food web in Lake Vostok represents what ecologists consider a simplified model system, containing far fewer trophic levels than surface ecosystems. Without photosynthesis, the entire community depends on chemosynthetic primary producers and the limited chemical energy they can extract from minerals. This energy constraint has selected for extraordinary efficiency in nutrient cycling, with virtually no waste in the system. Interestingly, this isolation may have preserved evolutionary relics, living fossils representing ancient metabolic strategies that disappeared elsewhere due to competition. Some researchers suggest certain enzymatic pathways found in Vostok microbes might represent biochemical approaches common billions of years ago in Earth's early biosphere, but since replaced by more efficient systems in surface environments. The physical characteristics of the lake itself have remained remarkably stable throughout its isolation. Unlike surface environments subjected to seasonal changes, climate shifts, and ecological disturbances, Vostok's physical parameters, temperature, pressure, chemical composition, have remained virtually unchanged. This stability creates evolutionary conditions fundamentally different from the dynamic environments that shaped most life on Earth. Scientists studying Vostok debate whether this stability accelerates or slows evolutionary processes. Some argue that without environmental fluctuations driving adaptation, evolution proceeds more gradually. Others suggest the extreme conditions themselves create strong selective pressure, potentially accelerating certain adaptive processes despite the environmental stability. This scientific question remains unresolved, making Vostok not just a window into an exotic ecosystem, but a test case for fundamental evolutionary theory. Accessing Lake Vostok presented one of the most formidable challenges in the history of scientific exploration. Researchers faced a seemingly impossible task: how to sample an environment buried beneath kilometers of ice without contaminating it. The mission demanded technology, methodology, and precision without precedent in scientific fieldwork. The drilling operation itself represented an extraordinary engineering achievement. Working in temperatures reaching -89 degrees Celsius, the coldest recorded anywhere on Earth, Russian scientists at Vostok Station spent decades gradually extending a borehole through the Antarctic ice sheet. The drilling fluid used in conventional operations posed an immediate problem. If it entered the pristine lake, it would introduce modern microbes and toxic chemicals, permanently altering the very environment they sought to study. The solution came through innovative, clean drilling techniques. As the borehole approached the lake boundary, researchers replaced standard drilling fluids with silicone oil free of biological contaminants. In the final approach, they employed a thermal drill that melted ice rather than cutting it, creating a sterile pathway. Most ingeniously, they stopped drilling just short of penetration, allowing pressure from the lake below to push water up into the borehole where it froze, creating a natural plug of accretion ice that could be sampled without contaminating the main lake body. Even with these precautions, controversy erupted within the scientific community. Some researchers argued that any penetration risked contamination of an irreplaceable, pristine environment. International scientific bodies debated ethical guidelines for subglacial exploration, eventually establishing protocols requiring multiple lines of evidence that sampling methods wouldn't compromise ecosystem integrity. The Russian team proceeded, only after demonstrating their approach met these stringent standards. The technical challenges extended beyond contamination concerns. Ice at these depths behaves differently than near the surface. It's more plastic, causing boreholes to gradually close through deformation. Drilling equipment had to function reliably in extreme cold and pressure. Researchers worked in short seasonal windows when conditions permitted operations, often advancing only a few meters per day. The entire project required extraordinary patience. The borehole reached 3,500 meters depth only after 15 years of seasonal drilling. Sample retrieval presented its own unique challenges. Having obtained accretion ice containing lake water, researchers faced the daunting task of identifying microbial life potentially present in extremely low concentrations. Traditional culturing methods proved largely ineffective. Most Vostok microbes wouldn't grow under laboratory conditions. Instead, scientists turned to advanced genomic techniques, including shotgun metagenomic sequencing that can detect DNA fragments from unculturable organisms. Even with cutting-edge technology, distinguishing genuine Vostok microbes from potential contaminants required extraordinary measures. Researchers developed authentication protocols involving multiple independent laboratories, analyzing identical samples. They created contamination databases containing genetic signatures of all microbes potentially introduced during drilling and handling, methodically excluding these signatures from their findings. Only organisms verified through multiple detection methods across different samples were accepted as genuine Vostok inhabitants. The scientific rigor applied to Vostok samples established new standards for astrobiology and extreme environment research. NASA and other space agencies adopted similar protocols for planetary protection in missions to potentially habitable worlds like Mars and Europa. What began as methodology for Antarctic research now informs how humanity will search for extraterrestrial life while protecting alien environments from terrestrial contamination. Perhaps most remarkably, sampling continues to evolve as technology advances. Newer projects employ autonomous underwater vehicles designed to enter subglacial lakes through clean melted access holes, collect samples using sterilized instruments, and return to the surface without human intervention. These robots carry sophisticated in situ analysis equipment, minimizing the need to remove samples from their native environment. Each methodological advance has revealed new aspects of Vostok's ecosystem previously invisible to science. What began with detection of simple bacterial forms has expanded to understanding complex community structures, metabolic pathways, and evolutionary relationships, all from an environment that remains physically inaccessible to human explorers. The story of Vostok is as much about scientific ingenuity as about the extraordinary life forms discovered. When scientists look to the outer solar system, they find striking parallels between Lake Vostok and environments suspected to exist on distant moons. Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's Enceladus both harbor global oceans beneath thick ice crusts, environments remarkably similar to Antarctica's subglacial lakes, but on planetary scales. These similarities have transformed Lake Vostok from an Earth science curiosity into a crucial analog for astrobiological research. Europa, slightly smaller than Earth's moon, possesses what may be the largest ocean in our solar system, a global water body containing more liquid than all Earth's oceans combined. hidden beneath an ice shell 10 to 30 kilometers thick. Like Vostok, Europa's ocean exists in darkness under pressure and has likely remained isolated for billions of years. The parallels extend to energy sources. While Europa lacks sunlight for photosynthesis, geological evidence from the Galileo mission suggests hydrothermal activity at its seafloor, potentially providing the same chemical energy sources that sustain Vostok's ecosystem. Enceladus presents an even more tantalizing comparison. This small Saturnian moon, just 500 kilometers in diameter, revealed its secrets during NASA's Cassini mission when the spacecraft flew through plumes of water vapor erupting from its south polar region. Analysis of these plumes detected organic compounds, molecular hydrogen and silica nanoparticles, strong evidence for hydrothermal systems remarkably similar to those hypothesized in Lake Vostok. These findings suggest chemical energy sources directly comparable to those utilized by Vostok's chemosynthetic bacteria. The methodologies developed for studying Lake Vostok now inform mission planning for these distant worlds. Technologies for clean sampling, contamination control, and life detection created for Antarctic research are being adapted for space exploration. NASA's upcoming Europa Clipper mission and proposed Enceladus missions incorporate lessons learned from subglacial lake exploration on Earth. Scientists who once designed drills for Antarctic ice now consult on instruments for potential future missions to penetrate Europa's frozen surface. Beyond technical applications, Vostok provides a biological framework for understanding potential extraterrestrial ecosystems. If microbial communities can evolve in Earth's most isolated environment using energy sources independent of sunlight, similar evolutionary pathways might operate in subsurface oceans elsewhere. The specific adaptations observed in Vostok extremophiles, pressure tolerance, cold adaptation, alternative metabolic pathways, offer testable predictions about traits scientists might expect in organisms evolving under similar constraints. On other worlds, researchers now conduct parallel studies between Vostok microbes and simulated ocean environments based on data from Europa and Enceladus. In laboratory settings, scientists subject Vostok organisms to conditions matching those expected on these moons. Different mineral compositions, radiation levels, and pressure regimes to assess survival potential and adaptation capabilities. These experiments help narrow the search parameters for potential biosignatures future missions might detect. The astrobiological significance extends beyond technical approaches to fundamental questions about life's origins. Some researchers propose that life on Earth might have originated in environments similar to subglacial lakes, protected settings where chemical evolution could proceed, sheltered from harsh surface conditions. If true, environments like Vostok might represent not just analogues for alien oceans, but windows into Earth's own biological beginnings. NASA astrobiologist Chris McKay articulates this connection directly. When we study Lake Vostok, we're not just learning about an exotic Earth environment. We're developing the scientific framework for how life might function on ocean worlds throughout the galaxy. This perspective has elevated Vostok research from specialist glaciology to a cornerstone of humanity's search for extraterrestrial life. Perhaps most profoundly, Vostok challenges our assumptions about habitability. Before its discovery, scientific consensus held that active ecosystems required either sunlight or geothermal hotspots like deep-sea vents. Vostok demonstrates a third pathway, life sustained by gradual geochemical processes in cold, dark isolation. This expanded definition of habitable environments significantly increases the number of potentially life-supporting worlds, not just in our solar system, but throughout the universe. The discovery of Lake Vostok's ecosystem represents not an endpoint but a beginning, the first chapter in humanity's exploration of Earth's subglacial realm. Since the initial breakthrough, researchers have identified more than 400 subglacial lakes across Antarctica, each potentially harboring unique microbial communities evolved in isolation. This hidden hydrology constitutes an entirely new biological frontier on our own planet, one whose exploration has only just begun. Among these newly discovered environments, Lake Whillans in West Antarctica has yielded particularly significant findings. Unlike Vostok, which has remained sealed for hundreds of thousands of years, Whillans actively exchanges water with a network of connected lakes and streams flowing beneath the ice. When researchers accessed Whillans in 2013 using clean hot water drilling techniques, they discovered a thriving ecosystem containing approximately 1,000 bacteria per milliliter, orders of magnitude more biomass than initially found in Vostok samples. This higher cellular density reflects fundamental differences in energy availability. Whillans receives inputs of carbon and other nutrients through its connected hydrological system, supporting more abundant life. The comparison between isolated and connected subglacial lakes has revealed how energy limitations shape ecosystem development in these extreme environments, a natural experiment in ecological theory playing out beneath the ice. The subglacial frontier extends beyond Antarctica. Researchers have now identified similar environments beneath Greenland's ice sheet, with important distinctions from their Antarctic counterparts. Greenland's subglacial lakes experience different geological conditions, with some receiving inputs from the island's volcanic systems. These variations create a spectrum of subglacial environments with different chemical compositions, energy sources, and evolutionary histories, each potentially harboring unique biological adaptations. Perhaps most surprisingly, the scientific significance of these ecosystems extends far beyond microbiology into climate science. As researchers study how microbes cycle carbon and other elements beneath ice sheets, they're discovering these processes may influence global biogeochemical cycles. When subglacial water eventually flows into the ocean, either through natural drainage systems or due to ice sheet retreat, it carries microbially altered chemical signatures that can impact marine environments. This connection between Earth's most isolated ecosystems and planetary-scale processes represents an entirely unexpected dimension of their importance. The exploration techniques developed for subglacial research have found applications in other extreme environments. Engineers have adapted clean drilling technologies for accessing geothermal systems, studying deep crustal microbiology, and even developing planetary protection protocols for space missions. The methodological challenges of reaching these isolated ecosystems without contamination have driven broader innovations in scientific exploration. Genomic discoveries from subglacial environments continue transforming our understanding of life's capabilities. Researchers have identified novel enzymes with remarkable properties, cold-active proteins that function efficiently near freezing, pressure-adapted molecules that maintain structure under extreme compression, and specialized metabolic pathways that extract energy from previously unknown chemical reactions. These discoveries hold potential applications in industrial processes, pharmaceutical development, and environmental remediation. Practical benefits emerging from pure exploration science. As climate change drives rapid transformation of polar regions, the urgency of subglacial research increases. These environments, stable for millennia, face disruption through accelerated ice sheet melting and changing hydrological patterns. Scientists race to document these ecosystems before potential alterations occur, recognizing they represent both unique evolutionary heritage and invaluable scientific resources that cannot be replaced once lost. Looking forward, researchers have proposed ambitious new exploration initiatives. Projects like SALSA, Subglacial Antarctic Lakes Scientific Access, aim to systematically sample multiple lake systems using advanced robotics and in-situ analysis technologies. These efforts will map the full diversity of subglacial ecosystems and potentially answer fundamental questions about how life evolves in isolation over geological timescales. The story of life beneath the ice represents science at its most profound, revealing hidden dimensions of our planet, expanding our conception of life's boundaries, and connecting Earth science with humanity's broader search for life beyond our world. From a curious radar anomaly detected decades ago, an entire field of research has emerged, crossing disciplines and challenging fundamental assumptions about where and how life exists in the universe. The ice sheets have surrendered only the first of their secrets, Countless more await beyond the barrier.